Is water a right or a commodity, I think is the real question that I want to ask. I think most of us would say it's a right, it's a necessity, it's something that we can't live without. None of us is going to try to take water away from anyone else. Each one of us expects when we get up in the morning that we're going to take in some water in some form or another during that day, whether it's by eating fruits and vegetables, or by actually drinking water, or drinking tea or beer or coffee, something like that. But in our world right now, what we're actually seeing, if you take the whole globalized world, we're seeing water being treated as a commodity. From a very simple thing, going to the store and being able to buy bottled water, that's on a very small scale. But on the larger scale, you've got large private companies that will go into a country and say, hey, instead of letting your government run how the water is distributed, we'll do it. They say, we're much more efficient, we'll do it for you. So this is kind of the problem. Should water be public, or should water be private in countries? The first thing I want to talk about in terms of is it a right or a commodity is the exportation and importation of water. I mean, on a local scale, if I'm really thirsty and I'm outside and I don't have access to drinking water, I have no problem buying a bottle of water from the store, or a bottle of tea from the store, because that water comes, well, if I do buy it, I buy one the water is coming right from Taiwan. I think for me, the reason that I want to give this speech is I want people to start thinking a different way about how we buy products, just simply buy products from the store. If I buy a bottle of water at 7-Eleven, I'm looking at it and saying, okay, where does this water come from? Does it come from Taiwan, or does it come from another country? I don't want to take water out of another region's local water cycle. People don't really think about water that way, but it does make a big difference. And it's not just, probably the worst thing that I do is I buy imported beer. I love to drink Japanese beer. Now, Japan's not that far away. That's okay. It's still a relatively local water cycle, but it comes down to the small things that we buy, like beer or wine from Europe, or from Australia, or from South America. But it's not just about things that you would obviously think of are water products, like wine, beer, or bottled water. It comes down to import and exportation of flowers, trees, and animals as well. I mean, if you buy meat that's imported, you're not really importing the water with the meat itself, but you have to think about, there's a whole other thing about the water that goes in to produce that product in the country itself, but I'm not there yet. But if you import a whole animal, I'm not sure how much that happens in Taiwan, but I know there are places in the world that you can sell animals from one country to another. Animals have water inside of them, so it could be an animal. You could be buying and selling trees across borders, or flowers. But I think it also comes down to the agricultural products that we consume, the fruits and vegetables. Are we buying our fruits and vegetables locally, or are we importing them? I see far too much. I mean, all you have to do is go to Costco, and you can see a store that's filled to the brim. Well, with some things that don't contain any water, or you have to go back to the country it's produced in and the water that it takes to produce that product. But then if you look on the other side of the store, it's full of stuff that does contain water and is imported, usually from the United States. All right. So now it gets into, that's the import and export, but I want to get into the use for industry, agriculture, and energy creation in the individual country. Say, could be in the United States, or it could be here. If you're buying all of your products locally, then that's okay. But let's say we're importing them, so we have to think about how is the water used for industry and agriculture. What are some of the products that we import? I like olive oil or grapeseed oil. I like chocolate, and I don't drink very much coffee, but sometimes I'll have a cup of coffee, or flour or something like that. All of these products take water to create. Even something like a cell phone. Well, this cell phone's from Taiwan, but it takes water to create this cell phone, and inside of the plant to keep the machines cool even sometimes. Okay. So let's say use for energy creation. Dams, the large dams actually change the hydrologic cycle by creating vast areas where you have a lake that wasn't there before that's now creating evaporation in that area, and further down the river, maybe towards the end of the river, you can take one like the Colorado River in the United States. The water doesn't actually even reach the ocean sometimes during the year, so it becomes far drier in that area. Let's see. Now, agriculture. It's not something that we can do away with. Obviously, we need to eat, but we need to think about we as a country or as a community, not necessarily as individuals, we need to think about how can we best use the water to grow the food that we need, or can we eat things and consume things that take less water to create. The kind of agriculture that has been built up in the West over the last 50 years is completely unsustainable. So it's going to have to change. I think an estimate that I heard was that if you took the total area of the earth, of the arable land on the earth, and you farmed it responsibly, you could possibly feed 9 billion people. So that still gives us some room to grow, which there's going to be no stopping us from growing. But that's at a responsible rate. If you took it and you tried to feed all the people on the earth the way that we do it in the United States, if you're consuming like people do in the United States, then the world, with those same estimates, would only be able to have about 1.5 million people. So we'd have to, more than half of us would have to die in that situation.
Cardiac arrest.
Sorry?
So that would probably happen with cardiac arrest if we put the whole world the way the Americans do.
Cardiac arrest, yeah, right. All right. I mean, basically, those kinds of estimates are saying, okay, if we're all living the way that people in India live, very farming focused and not so wasteful, then we can continue to grow and still have good lives. I didn't really get into industry, but I mean, you know, it's kind of hard to imagine that it takes water to create a car, but it's true. Even solar panels and wind turbines use water to create them. So there's not really anything in this world that is either water-free or even carbon-free. It's all, you know, even just to make something simple like a wooden knife that I could kill a fish with or something like that. I still have to first grow the